transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Kepler 442b. Commander Jake Morrison gripped his seat and looked out the small window at the alien world below. The planet looked peaceful from space, with blue oceans and green continents that reminded him of Earth. He had no idea that this peaceful-looking world would soon become the most frustrating assignment of his career. Behind him, 20 human cadets sat quietly in their seats. They had been chosen from thousands of applicants to attend the Galactic Emergency Response Academy. This was the first time humans had been invited to join the program. For 300 years, aliens from across the galaxy had come to this planet to learn how to handle disasters and emergencies. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom in broken English. Landing in 5 minutes. Please prepare for ground contact. Lisa Chen, the group's best pilot, leaned forward in her seat. She had flown through asteroid fields and solar storms, but landing on an alien world still made her nervous. Next to her, Danny Rodriguez checked his equipment bag for the 10th time. As the team's engineer, he wanted to be ready for whatever alien technology they might encounter. Katie Sullivan closed her medical textbook and stretched. She had spent the entire journey reading about alien biology and emergency medicine. The MI Academy's database contained information about dozens of different species, each with their own medical needs and vulnerabilities. The ship touched down with a gentle bump on the Academy's landing pad. Through the windows, the humans could see tall, crystalline buildings that sparkled in the sunlight. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, with smooth curves and geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "Welcome to the most advanced emergency training facility in the galaxy," announced Ryan Parker, reading from his information tablet. As the team's communication specialist, he had memorized every detail about their destination. The Academy trains over 2,000 students each year from 47 different species. The cargo bay doors opened with a hiss and the humans got their first breath of alien air. It smelled like ozone and flowers with a metallic tang that made their teeth tingle. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making each step feel bouncy and strange. A group of aliens waited for them on the landing pad. The humans had seen pictures of Zephyrians before, but meeting them in person was still a shock. They looked like living crystals, with bodies that seemed to be carved from purple and blue gemstones. Their faces had no visible features except for 2 bright points of light where eyes should be. The tallest Zephyrian stepped forward. His crystal body chimed softly as he moved, creating a musical sound with each step. "I am High Commander Vextal," he said in perfect English. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Welcome to the Galactic Emergency Response Academy." Jake stepped forward and saluted. "Commander Jake Morrison, United Earth Defense Force, thank you for accepting our application to the Academy." High Commander Vextal's crystal body flickered with different colors. The humans would later learn that this was how Zephyrians showed emotion. "Your species has a reputation for adaptability," Vextal said. "We are curious to see how you perform in our training programs." Another Zephyrian approached them. This one was smaller and moved with quick, nervous steps. "I am Instructor Krillnex," he announced. "I will be responsible for your emergency response training. I must warn you that our methods are very strict. Many students fail to complete the program." Alex Thompson, one of the younger cadets, grinned. "We're ready for anything, sir." Instructor Krillnex's crystal body flashed orange, which the humans would later learn meant confusion or concern. "We shall see," he said quietly. The group followed their alien guides across the Academy grounds. Everywhere they looked, they saw students from different species working together. Some looked almost human, but with different skin colors or extra arms. Others were completely alien, floating in the air or moving on dozens of tiny legs. "The Academy experiences regular seismic activity," explained High Commander Vextal as they walked. "This makes it an ideal location for earthquake preparedness training. Your dormitory has been specially constructed to withstand major tremors." Emma Davis, the team's geologist, looked around with interest. "How often do earthquakes occur here?" she asked. "Several times per week," replied Vextal. "Usually small tremors, but occasionally we experience larger events. All students must be prepared to respond immediately to any seismic activity. Humans exchanged glances. Several times per week seemed like a lot, but they had all experienced earthquakes before. California, Japan, and other parts of Earth had frequent seismic activity. How different could it be on an alien world? Their dormitory building was a marvel of alien engineering. The walls seemed to be made of the same crystal material as their instructors, but they glowed with a soft, warm light. Inside, each room contained a bed, desk, and storage unit designed for human proportions. "Your first training session begins tomorrow at dawn," announced Instructor Krillnex. "Tonight you should rest and adjust to our planetary rotation. Our day is 26 Earth hours long." As the aliens left them to settle in, the humans gathered in the common area. The furniture was comfortable but strange, seeming to mold itself to their bodies when they sat down. "This place is incredible," said Tony Garcia, a former Marine who had seen combat on 3 different worlds. But did anyone else notice how nervous the instructor seemed? "They kept talking about earthquake preparedness like it was life or death," added Claire Roberts, the team's medical officer. "I mean, I grew up in San Francisco. Earthquakes are just part of life." Ben Martinez, their squad leader, pulled up information about the planet on his tablet. "Says here that the local species experience physical pain during seismic events, something about their crystal structure resonating with the tremors." "That explains the concern," said Luke Anderson, their navigation specialist. "If earthquakes actually hurt them, no wonder they take it so seriously." The humans spent the evening exploring their new home and getting to know their alien classmates. Most of the other species seemed friendly, but cautious around the newcomers. Word had spread that humans were unpredictable and potentially dangerous. As night fell, the crystal buildings began to glow more brightly, providing gentle illumination across the academy grounds. The humans prepared for bed, unaware that their very first night would set the tone for their entire stay at the academy. Steve Johnson, lying in his bed, felt a slight vibration through the crystal walls. For a moment, he wondered if it was the building's climate control system. The vibration continued for about 30 seconds, then stopped. He shrugged and rolled over to sleep. Outside his window, emergency lights flashed across the academy as alien students rushed to evacuation points. The night's magnitude 3.2 earthquake had triggered standard response protocols for all species, except one. In the human dormitory, 20 cadets slept peacefully through their first Kepler 442b earthquake, completely unaware that they had just failed their first unofficial test. The alarm bells woke every student in the academy except the humans. At exactly 0600 hours, a piercing sound echoed across the crystal buildings, followed by Instructor Krillnex's voice over the communication system. "All students report to training. Ground 7 immediately. Today we begin advanced earthquake response protocols." Alex Thompson rolled over in his bed and covered his head with a pillow. The alarm was loud and annoying, but he had slept through worse during his military training on Earth. Around him, the other humans slowly got dressed and made their way to breakfast. At Training Ground 7, hundreds of alien students had already assembled in perfect formations. Each species stood in designated areas based on their physical capabilities and emergency response roles. The Zephyrians formed neat rows that sparkled in the morning sunlight. The Voltari, a race of tall, thin beings with silver skin, stood motionless like statues. The Kalani, small creatures covered in green fur, chattered nervously among themselves. The humans arrived 20 minutes late, carrying cups of coffee and looking relaxed. Jake Morrison led his team to an empty area near the back of the formation. Several alien instructors watched them with what humans would recognize as disapproval, though their expressions were difficult to read. High Commander Vextal stepped onto a raised platform in the center of the training ground. His crystal body flashed with authority as he began to speak. "Today you will experience simulated earthquake conditions designed to test your response time and survival skills. The first tremor will begin in exactly 10 minutes. Instructor Krillnex approached the human group with quick, nervous steps. "Your species failed to respond to last night's seismic event," he said, his crystal body flickering orange with concern. This is highly unusual and potentially dangerous behavior. Danny Rodriguez scratched his head. What seismic event? I didn't feel anything last night. The instructor's body flashed bright red, which the humans were learning meant shock or alarm. The magnitude 3.2 earthquake at 23:47 hours. Every other species immediately evacuated to safety zones. Your group remained in your dormitory without any response. Lisa Chen shrugged. A 3.2? That's barely noticeable. We get earthquakes bigger than that every week back home. Impossible, said Krillnex. A 3.2 earthquake causes significant structural vibration and potential injury risk. Your medical records show no evidence of seismic sensory deficiency. Katie Sullivan stepped forward. Maybe we should explain how earthquakes work on Earth. We experience thousands of small tremors every day. Most people never even notice them. The instructor's crystal body began cycling through multiple colors rapidly, which meant he was either very confused or very upset. This information contradicts everything we know about proper emergency response. I must report this to the medical staff immediately. Before anyone could respond, the ground began to shake. The first training earthquake had started. All around them, alien students dropped to the ground and covered their heads with their arms. Emergency whistles blew as instructors monitored their responses. The human team looked around curiously as the vibration continued. It felt like standing on a subway platform when a train passed by. Alex Thompson actually yawned and checked his watch to see how long the drill would last. This is more like a massage than an earthquake, said Tony Garcia, stretching his arms above his head. My old barracks used to shake worse than this when the laundry machines were running. Several Zephyrian students nearby heard his comment. Their crystal bodies flashed with pain and fear as they endured what they considered a traumatic experience. The vibrations caused their crystalline structure to resonate, creating painful harmonics throughout their bodies. When the artificial earthquake stopped after 2 minutes, Instructor Krillnex rushed over to the humans. Why did you not follow evacuation procedures? He demanded. Should we have? Asked Emma Davis innocently. It didn't seem like a real emergency. The shaking was pretty mild. The instructor's crystal body was now flashing so many colors that he looked like a disco ball. Mild? That was a magnitude 4.2 simulation. Many students suffer injuries during such intense seismic activity. Ben Martinez looked confused. But nobody got hurt. We were just standing here talking. You were supposed to evacuate immediately when the shaking began, explained Krillnex. Failure to respond properly to earthquake warnings results in automatic program dismissal for most species. Ryan Parker pulled out his tablet and showed the instructor some videos from Earth. Look, this is footage from Tokyo during a magnitude 5.0 earthquake. See how people just keep walking around and going about their business? This is normal for us. The instructor stared at the video in horror. On the screen, humans continued shopping, eating in restaurants, and even sleeping through what Zephyrians would consider a catastrophic disaster. This cannot be accurate data, he whispered. Oh, this is nothing, said Claire Roberts cheerfully. Wait until you see what happens during a magnitude 6.0. People barely slow down for those either. That afternoon, the humans found themselves in the Academy's medical center. Dr. Yilmoth, the chief medical officer, conducted extensive tests on their nervous systems. He was convinced that humans suffered from some unknown condition that prevented them from detecting dangerous vibrations. Your vestibular systems appear normal, he muttered, reviewing scan results. Inner ear function shows no abnormalities. Neural response to movement stimuli falls within standard ranges for most species. Luke Anderson lay on an examination table while alien medical equipment hummed around him. Doc, we're not broken. This is just how humans are built. We evolved on a planet with lots of earthquakes, volcanoes, and other natural disasters, Doctor. Yilmoth's assistant, a small creature with 6 arms, took detailed notes. The subject claims his species regularly experiences magnitude 6.0 seismic events without evacuation protocols. That's right, said Luke. I grew up in California. We had earthquake drills in school, but mostly they taught us to duck under desks and wait for the shaking to stop. The big stuff only happens every few years. The medical team exchanged worried glances using their own species' communication methods. They had never encountered a species that seemed immune to earthquake danger. Meanwhile, in the faculty lounge, alien instructors held an emergency meeting. The topic: what to do about the humans who seemed incapable of recognizing life-threatening situations. Perhaps we should contact their home world for additional medical information, suggested one instructor. Or maybe we should increase the intensity of our training simulations, said another. If magnitude 4.2 earthquakes do not get their attention, we may need to use more extreme measures. High Commander Vextal listened to the discussion with growing concern. In 300 years of Academy operation, no species had ever completely ignored earthquake safety protocols. The humans were either the bravest students they had ever encountered, or the most dangerously unprepared. We will continue with standard procedures, he decided finally. Tomorrow we will conduct a magnitude 5.5 simulation. If the humans fail to respond appropriately, we may need to consider terminating their participation in the program. That evening, the humans gathered in their common area to discuss their strange day. None of them understood why the aliens seemed so worried about minor ground vibrations. It's like they've never experienced any real danger before, said Steve Johnson. A magnitude 4.2 earthquake is barely worth mentioning. Maybe their planet is usually more stable, suggested Emma Davis. If they only get small tremors occasionally, a 4.2 might seem huge to them. Outside their window, the Academy's seismic monitoring station recorded 17 small earthquakes during the night. In dormitories across the campus, alien students practiced emergency evacuation procedures and reviewed safety protocols. In the human dormitory, 20 cadets slept peacefully through every single tremor, completely unaware that their alien instructors were beginning to question whether humans possessed basic survival instincts. Deep underground, the planet's seismic monitoring stations began recording unusual activity. The massive machines that tracked every vibration on Kepler 442b showed strange new patterns. Something big was building beneath the Academy. Dr. Yilmoth stood in the monitoring center, staring at the data displays with growing concern. As the Academy's chief geologist, he had seen thousands of earthquakes over his long career. But the readings on his screens showed something he had never witnessed before. The pressure buildup is unprecedented, he told his assistant, pointing to a graph covered in red warning lines. The fault systems beneath the Academy are approaching critical stress levels. His assistant, a young Zephyrian named Kexlin, calculated the numbers quickly. If current trends continue, we could see a magnitude 8.0 earthquake within the next few days, possibly larger. Dr. Yilmoth's crystal body flashed deep purple, the color of serious worry. Contact High Commander Vextal immediately. We may need to evacuate the Academy. In the faculty conference room, alien instructors gathered for an emergency meeting. The holographic display showed a three-dimensional map of the planet's underground fault lines. Bright red areas indicated dangerous pressure buildup directly beneath their location. This earthquake will be the largest in our planet's recorded history, announced Dr. Yilmoth. Preliminary calculations suggest a magnitude 9.8 event with catastrophic potential for surface damage. High Commander Vextal studied the data carefully. How much time do we have? 48 to 72 hours at most, replied the geologist. The Academy could suffer severe structural damage. Standard evacuation protocols recommend immediate orbital transfer for all students. Instructor Krillnex raised a crystalline hand. Commander, this presents an unprecedented training opportunity. A real earthquake of this magnitude would provide invaluable experience for our students. The room fell silent. Other instructors flashed various colors of shock and concern. Using an actual catastrophic earthquake as a training exercise had never been attempted before. The risk is enormous, said Dr. Yilmoth. Even our best students have never faced anything approaching this magnitude. But the educational value would be immeasurable, argued Krillnex. Our graduates would be the only emergency responders in the galaxy, with real experience managing a planetary-scale disaster. High Commander Vextal considered the proposal carefully. The Academy's reputation was built on providing the most realistic training possible. This earthquake could represent the ultimate test of their methods. We will conduct one final comprehensive drill using the actual earthquake, he decided. All students will participate. This will be their graduation examination. The decision created chaos throughout the academy. Alien students who had trained for years suddenly faced the prospect of experiencing a real catastrophe. Many requested immediate evacuation, but Vextal denied all transfer requests. In the human dormitory, Jake Morrison gathered his team to discuss the situation. The Academy's announcement had reached them along with everyone else, but their reaction was typically calm. "So we're looking at a magnitude 9.8 earthquake," he said, reading from his tablet. "That's actually pretty significant." Lisa Chen nodded thoughtfully. "The 2011 Japan earthquake was a 9.0, that was serious business. But we've all been through disaster response training." Danny Rodriguez checked his equipment supplies. "My gear should handle most structural collapse scenarios. The alien technology here seems pretty solid." Katie Sullivan reviewed her medical protocols. "I've studied multi-species trauma response. The main concern will be the Zephyrians and their resonance sensitivity." The humans spent the evening preparing methodically for the exercise. They checked communication equipment, organized medical supplies, and reviewed evacuation routes. Their approach was professional but relaxed, treating the upcoming earthquake like any other training scenario. Meanwhile, throughout the academy, alien students prepared with obvious anxiety. The Voltari performed ceremonial purification rituals. The Kalani gathered in large groups, seeking comfort in numbers. The Zephyrians spent hours reviewing emergency protocols and checking protective equipment. "Have you noticed how differently everyone is reacting to this?" asked Alex Thompson during dinner. "The aliens act like this earthquake is going to end the world." Tony Garcia looked around the dining hall, where alien students sat in tight clusters, speaking in hushed tones. "Maybe for them it is. Remember what the instructor said about their crystal bodies resonating with vibrations?" Emma Davis pulled up geological data on her tablet. "I've been studying this planet's seismic history. Most earthquakes here are relatively small. The largest recorded event was only magnitude 6.1. A 9.8 would be completely outside their experience." Ryan Parker intercepted communications traffic between alien faculty members. "The instructors are really nervous too. I'm picking up transmissions about emergency evacuation ships standing by." That night, High Commander Vexitel made a personal visit to the human dormitory. He found the team playing cards in their common area, completely relaxed despite the approaching disaster. "I wanted to discuss the upcoming exercise with your group," he began formally. "This earthquake will exceed anything you have experienced during training." Ben Martinez looked up from his cards. "How does it compare to major Earth earthquakes, sir?" Vextal consulted his datapad. "According to our research, it will be equivalent to your planet's largest recorded seismic events, perhaps larger. So like the 1960 Chile earthquake or the 2004 Indian Ocean event," said Claire Roberts. "Those were devastating, but people survived them." The commander's crystal body flickered with confusion. "Your species has experienced earthquakes of this magnitude before?" "Oh, sure," said Luke Anderson casually. "Not often, but they happen. Every few decades somewhere on Earth. Usually there's some tsunami damage and building collapse, but modern construction standards help a lot." Vextal stared at the humans in amazement. They were discussing planetary-scale disasters like routine weather events. "Do you not understand the severity of what approaches?" Steve Johnson shrugged. "We understand it's a big earthquake, but earthquakes happen. You prepare for them, respond appropriately, and deal with the aftermath. That's what emergency responders do." The commander left the human dormitory more confused than ever. In 300 years of academy operation, he had never encountered students who treated catastrophic disasters as routine occupational hazards. The next morning, seismic activity increased dramatically. Small tremors occurred every few hours, causing visible distress among alien students. Emergency response teams conducted final equipment checks and reviewed evacuation procedures. The humans noticed the increase in ground vibration but continued their normal routines. They attended classes, exercised in the gymnasium, and socialized with other students. Their calm behavior created in strange contrast with the obvious tension everywhere else. "Final briefing in 1 hour," announced Instructor Krillnax over the communication system. All students report to the main auditorium for critical safety information. In the auditorium, over 2,000 students from dozens of species gathered for what many believed might be their final academy assembly. The atmosphere was tense and fearful as instructors outlined survival protocols for unprecedented earthquake conditions. High Commander Vextal took the stage and activated the main display screen. It showed real-time seismic data with massive red warning indicators covering the entire region. In approximately 18 hours, this academy will experience the largest earthquake in planetary history, he announced. This will be your final examination. Success means survival. Failure means death. Throughout the auditorium, alien students reacted with visible fear and determination. Species-specific emergency procedures were reviewed in detail. Evacuation routes were memorized. Emergency supplies were distributed. In the back rows, 20 human cadets listened attentively and took notes. When the briefing ended, they gathered their equipment and returned to their dormitory to get a good night's sleep before the big day. "Well, that should be interesting," said Jake Morrison as they walked across the campus. "I haven't been in a really big earthquake since the Afghanistan deployment." Behind them, alien students worked through the night preparing for what they considered the ultimate test of survival. At exactly 0347 local time, the planet struck back. The earthquake began as a low rumble deep underground, like the growl of some massive sleeping beast. Within seconds, it became something far more powerful. The ground rolled in waves across the Academy campus, tossing buildings like toys and splitting the earth in jagged lines that stretched to the horizon. In the Seismic Monitoring Center, Dr. Yilmoth watched his instruments go crazy before the screens went dark. The earthquake measured 9.8 on their scale, exactly as predicted, but experiencing it was completely different from reading numbers on a computer. The crystal buildings of the Academy swayed and twisted as the ground moved beneath them. Some of the older structures cracked and fell, sending clouds of glittering dust into the air. The beautiful geometric patterns that decorated the campus shattered like glass, creating a musical sound that mixed with the roar of moving earth. In the alien dormitories, emergency systems activated immediately. Bright lights flashed in sequence, guiding students toward evacuation routes. Alarm bells rang continuously, though the sound was almost lost in the noise of the earthquake itself. The Zephyrian students suffered the worst. Their crystal bodies resonated with the vibrations, creating painful harmonics that felt like being struck by hammers. Many collapsed immediately, unable to function while their internal structure rang like bells. Those who could still move helped carry their classmates toward safety zones. The Voltari students moved in perfect formation despite the chaos. Their silver bodies flowed like liquid mercury as they navigated collapsing hallways and broken stairs. Years of training had prepared them for this moment, and they executed evacuation procedures with mechanical precision. The Kalani students panicked completely. The small, furry creatures ran in circles, chittering in fear as their dormitory buildings swayed back and forth. Several groups got trapped in stairwells when debris blocked their escape routes. Emergency response teams throughout the academy sprang into action. Rescue squads equipped with specialized gear began searching for trapped students. Medical teams set up triage centers in the designated safe zones. Communication specialists tried desperately to maintain contact with all areas of the campus. In the human dormitory, something completely different was happening. Alex Thompson opened one eye and looked at his alarm clock. The glowing numbers showed 0347, still 3 hours before his usual wake-up time. The bed was moving gently from side to side, rocking like a boat on calm water. He assumed someone in the room above was moving furniture around. "Could you guys keep it down up there?" he mumbled into his pillow. The rocking continued for a few more seconds, then stopped. Alex rolled over and went back to sleep. Down the hall, Danny Rodriguez briefly woke up when his water glass fell off the nightstand and hit the floor. The sound of breaking glass made him open his eyes for a moment. He saw that his desk chair had rolled across the room and his books had fallen off the shelves. "Stupid alien gravity," he muttered, assuming the planet's slightly different gravitational field was affecting his room's stability. He made a mental note to secure his belongings better tomorrow and closed his eyes again. Katie Sullivan felt the earthquake more clearly than the others. Her medical training had taught her to wake up quickly when something unusual happened. She sat up in bed and noticed that the walls were vibrating slightly. Through her window, she could see emergency lights flashing across the campus. For a moment, she wondered if this was another training drill. The aliens seemed to love conducting exercises at odd hours. She checked her communication device for any official messages, but the networks were down. Katie decided that if it was important, someone would come get them. She lay back down and tried to go back to sleep. Lisa Chen experienced the earthquake as a gentle swaying motion that reminded her of sleeping in a spacecraft during orbital maneuvers. She had spent so many years as a pilot that unusual movements barely registered in her consciousness. The earthquake felt like normal engine vibrations, so she simply adjusted her position and continued sleeping. Ryan Parker woke up long enough to notice that his communication equipment was making strange noises. The radio systems were picking up lots of emergency traffic, but it was all in alien languages he did not understand. He figured the night shift was probably conducting some kind of communications drill and turned down the volume. Tony Garcia, the former Marine, had the most interesting reaction to the earthquake. His military experience had trained him to sleep through artillery bombardments and missile strikes. The gentle rocking motion of a magnitude 9.8 earthquake actually reminded him of the relaxing motion of a hammock. He smiled in his sleep and had pleasant dreams about lying on a beach. Meanwhile, outside the human dormitory, chaos ruled the academy campus. Rescue teams worked frantically to evacuate alien students from damaged buildings. The main administration center had partially collapsed, trapping several faculty members inside. Emergency medical stations overflowed with injured Zephyrians, whose crystal bodies had been damaged by the resonance effects. Instructor Krill next led a search and rescue team through the rubble of the science building. His own crystal body rang with pain from the earthquake's vibrations, but duty drove him forward. They had already rescued 12 students and were searching for more survivors. Status report from all dormitory sectors, he called into his communication device. Voltari dormitory evacuated successfully, came the first response. All students accounted for and safe. Kalani dormitory reporting heavy damage, said another voice. We have students trapped on the upper floors. Zephyrian dormitory completely evacuated, reported a third team. Multiple casualties from resonance, trauma. What about the human dormitory? Asked Krillnex. There was a long pause. Sir, we have not received any communication from the human sector. Instructor Krillnex felt his crystal body flash with alarm. The human dormitory was located near the earthquake's epicenter. If the aliens were struggling to survive this disaster, the humans must be in terrible danger. Dispatch emergency rescue teams to the human dormitory immediately, he ordered. Priority 1 evacuation protocol. 3 rescue teams raced across the damaged campus toward the human quarters. They expected to find the building collapsed or severely damaged. They prepared medical equipment for treating human earthquake injuries. Some team members said goodbye to their families, knowing that rescue operations in earthquake zones were extremely dangerous. When the first rescue team reached the human dormitory, they stopped in confusion. The building was still standing. Minor cracks ran along some walls and a few windows were broken, but the structure remained intact. Emergency lights were not flashing. No calls for help came from inside. The team leader activated his external communication system. Human students, this is Emergency Rescue Team Alpha. Please respond immediately. Silence. Human students, if you can hear this message, please signal your location. We are here to evacuate you to safety. Still nothing. The rescue team prepared to force entry into the building. They assumed the humans were either unconscious from injuries or trapped under debris. Using specialized equipment, they carefully opened the main entrance and entered the dormitory. Inside, they found something that defied all logic and training. The hallways were empty but undamaged. Personal belongings were scattered around from the earthquake's motion, but there were no signs of panic or emergency evacuation. Most importantly, there were no signs of the human students anywhere. The Rescue teams searched every room systematically. They found beds that had been slept in recently. They found scattered books and equipment. They found everything except the humans themselves. "This is Rescue Team Alpha," the team leader reported, back to headquarters. "The human dormitory appears to be empty. No signs of the students anywhere. They may have evacuated on their own." At the Emergency Command Center, High Commander Vextal received the report with growing confusion. "Check all designated safe zones for human students," he ordered. 20 minutes later, the response came back. "Sir, we have checked every evacuation site on campus. The humans are not at any of the designated safe zones." Vextal's crystal body cycled through multiple colors of worry and confusion. Where could 20 human students disappear to during the largest earthquake in planetary history? The earthquake finally stopped after 47 minutes of continuous shaking. Across the Academy campus, emergency teams worked to assess damage and treat injured students. The beautiful crystal buildings lay partially in ruins, their geometric patterns shattered and scattered like broken jewels. In the main medical center, Dr. Yilmoth treated dozens of Zephyrian students suffering from resonance trauma. Their crystal bodies had been damaged by the earthquake's vibrations, leaving many unable to move properly. The medical staff worked around the clock to repair fractured internal structures and restore normal function. High Commander Vextal stood in the Emergency Command Center, coordinating rescue operations across the campus. Damage reports continued to flow in from all sectors. 3 buildings had collapsed completely. 7 more were too damaged to occupy safely. Power systems had failed in most areas, leaving only emergency lighting functioning. "Status report on all student groups," he ordered tiredly. "Voltari students all accounted for," came the first response. "Minor injuries only. They performed evacuation procedures perfectly. Kalani students rescued from damaged dormitory," reported another team. 12 injuries, but all will recover fully. "Zephyrian students evacuated successfully," said a third voice. "Heavy casualties from resonance effects, but medical teams are treating them." "What about the humans?" asked Vextal for the 10th time in the past hour. "Sir, we still have no contact with the human students. Search teams report there. Dormitory is empty but undamaged." Vextal's crystal body flashed deep red with frustration and worry. 20 human students could not simply vanish during the largest earthquake in planetary history. Either they were trapped somewhere unexpected, or something terrible had happened to them. At exactly 0700 hours, the Academy's breakfast service activated automatically. Emergency generators powered the food preparation systems, and robotic servers began preparing meals for the surviving students and faculty. 10 minutes later, something impossible happened. The main dining hall doors opened, and 20 human students walked in casually, chatting among themselves and looking completely normal. They wore their regular academy uniforms, carried their usual equipment, and showed no signs of distress or injury. Jake Morrison led his team to their usual table and picked up a breakfast tray. "Good morning," he said cheerfully to the stunned alien cafeteria staff. "Is the coffee machine working today?" The alien food service workers stared in shock. These humans looked like they had just gotten out of bed after a normal night's sleep. There were no bandages, no dirt or dust from collapsed buildings, no signs that they had experienced the most devastating earthquake in the planet's history. Word spread quickly through the Academy's emergency communication system. Within minutes, High Commander Vextal arrived at the dining hall with a full escort of instructors and medical staff. "Where have you been?" he demanded, his crystal body flashing multiple colors of confusion and relief. Alex Thompson looked up from his breakfast. "In our dormitory, sir. We just woke up about 20 minutes ago." "That is impossible," said Instructor Krillnex, approaching the table with quick, nervous steps. "Your dormitory was searched multiple times during the earthquake. You were not there." "We were sleeping," said Danny Rodriguez simply. "Did something happen last night?" The alien faculty members exchanged glances of pure bewilderment. Dr. Yilmoth stepped forward with his medical scanner already activated. "You experienced no distress during the seismic event?" Katie Sullivan looked confused. "What seismic event?" I thought I heard some noise around 3 in the morning, but it stopped pretty quickly. The magnitude 9.8 earthquake, explained Vextal, slowly. The largest in our planet's recorded history. It lasted for 47 minutes and caused extensive damage across the academy. The humans looked around the dining hall for the first time and noticed the cracked walls, broken windows, and emergency lighting. They also saw the alien students covered in bandages and the obvious signs of a major disaster. "Oh, wow," said Lisa Chen. "There really was an earthquake. That explains why my room was messy this morning." Tony Garcia nodded thoughtfully. "I wondered why some of my stuff had fallen off the shelves. Felt like a pretty gentle one, though." High Commander Vextal's crystal body began cycling through so many colors that he looked like a rainbow. "Gentle? This earthquake destroyed 3 buildings and injured hundreds of students." Emma Davis pulled out her tablet and began reading about the earthquake data. "Magnitude 9.8 is definitely significant," she admitted, "but it's not the biggest we've seen on Earth. The 1960 Chile earthquake was a 9.5, and the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake was about 9.1. "Your planet experiences earthquakes of this magnitude regularly?" asked Dr. Yilmoth in disbelief. "Not regularly," said Ryan Parker. "Maybe once every few decades somewhere on Earth, but yeah, we get big ones sometimes." Steve Johnson pulled up some videos on his communication device. "Here, check this out. This is security camera footage from the 2011 Japan earthquake. It was a 9.0. The alien instructors watched in horror as the video showed humans calmly evacuating buildings, helping injured people, and organizing rescue operations while their cities collapsed around them. What shocked the aliens most was how organized and efficient the human response appeared. "Your species treats planetary disasters as routine emergencies?" asked Vextal quietly. "Well, they're not routine," said Ben Martinez. "But they happen. You prepare for them, train for them, and deal with them when they occur. That's what emergency responders do," Claire Roberts added. "Earth is a pretty dangerous planet compared to most worlds. We have earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, and all sorts of natural disasters. Humans evolved to handle that kind of environment." The revelation hit the alien faculty like another earthquake. They had designed their academy to train emergency responders using the most extreme conditions their planet could provide. But those extreme conditions were apparently normal Tuesday night events for humans. Instructor Krillnex sat down heavily on a nearby chair, his crystal body flickering weakly. "We have been training students for 300 years using scenarios that humans consider minor inconveniences." Luke Anderson tried to be helpful. "Maybe you could increase the intensity of your simulations? I mean, a 9.8 is pretty good, but if you really want to challenge human students, you might need to go bigger." "Bigger?" whispered Dr. Yilmoth. "How much bigger?" "Well," said Alex Thompson thoughtfully, "the theoretical maximum for Earth type planets is about magnitude 12. We've never seen one that big, but the math says it's possible." The alien faculty members looked at each other in complete defeat. They had just experienced what they considered an unsurvivable catastrophe, and the humans were suggesting they needed to make their training exercises 4 times more intense. "Hi." Commander Vextal made a decision that would change the academy forever. Effective immediately, human students will be transferred to advanced training facilities designed for extreme scenarios. Jake Morrison looked interested. "What kind of extreme scenarios?" "Training near active stellar phenomena," said Vextal, slowly. "Neutron star environments, supernova proximity operations, scenarios that we previously considered too dangerous for any species to attempt." The humans exchanged excited glances. Finally, some real training that might actually challenge them. "That sounds awesome," said Tony Garcia enthusiastically. "When do we start?" As the humans finished their breakfast and prepared for transfer to more dangerous training environments, the alien faculty began the long process of updating their emergency response protocols. Their final report would note that human disaster tolerance exceeded all previously known biological limits. Instructor Krillnex filed his official recommendation: exclude humans from standard emergency training programs or completely redesign All protocols to accommodate species capable of sleeping through planetary catastrophes. High Commander Vextal's final log entry became Academy legend. Note to future instructors, when training humans, remember that impossible and dangerous mean different things to different species. What we consider unsurvivable, they consider a good night's sleep. The Academy would never be the same. But for the first time in 300 years, they finally understood what it meant to train truly universal emergency responders.